Your inquiry was not recognized.
One-pan fried cat. Your inquiry was not recognized. Let's go.
Good evening and welcome to Enterprise at 8. This is Live Long and Podcast Star Trek Enterprise Rewatch series. It's been about 20 years since tonight's episode Dead Stop first aired, but we are just getting started here at Enterprise at 8. I'm Jody Simpson, and not joining me is my co-host and the man who also left his spirit of adventure in the Romulan minefield, Adam Woodward. So he's not here. Maybe he'll join us. We don't know.
Good one.
There you go. But also joining us, of course, is the Live Long and Podcast producer extraordinaire and the man whose inquiries are also not recognized, Dave Mater.
Your inquiry is not recognized. Please place your compensation on the platform.
Exactly. And of course, the man who can also inflict as much pain as he likes, Kevin Millard.
Hello.
I should have pulled that. You should have pulled that one. That was one of the better jokes in the episode.
It really was. There was actually a couple good ones in this one. So as we said, tonight's episode is Dead Stop. This is the 29th episode or 30th, depending on how you count them. This is the Enterprise docks with a strange automated repair space station, which proves to be too good to be true. And Sam has joined us, and he says, "Hey,
Sam."
So we say, "Hey," back. When is Gillian coming?
Not
when
today.
he finally gets off the island.
Yeah, when he gets off the island, we'll get it going.
Exactly.
Futurama or King of the Hill.
I like both of them.
Both.
But
Yeah.
I'd say
Futurama's coming back, actually.
I don't dislike either of them, but I don't like them actively either.
King of the Hill hasn't aged well. If you watch some of the early episodes, definitely hasn't aged well.
Bobby's the most annoying character there ever was, quite frankly. And then Futurama is sort of.
I like Futurama.
It's okay. It's no Simpsons.
But you know what it isn't? Star Trek Enterprise.
It's not Star Trek Enterprise. When we're at a dead stop here,
let's do a dead stop on this train of thought and go right to the Enterprise.
Right there it is.
There it is, right there. So basically, we open up with kind of a continuation from last week's episode, which was the episode.
All you hated. I listened to the podcast, and it was just like a brutal episode. It was fine. It was mediocre. It was not great.
Not fine. It was a relentless piece of shit.
It was not even relentless. It was.
Tell us how you really feel there, Kevin.
It was a bit boring. But I don't think it was terrible. But anyway.
Well, you're wrong.
All right. I wasn't here to defend it, but not that I was even that inclined to defend it.
I don't think you really needed to see the previous episode to know too much about what's going on. Malcolm was injured, and
the ship's got a hole.
Ship's got a big hole in the one side of the saucer section. But past that, you don't really need to know much. They're not covering over a lot really here. But I do like the teaser here, which is the Trip and goofy face there, the guy that walks too much. Archer.
And he does walk a lot in this episode as well.
He does walk in this episode too. Yeah, absolutely.
Not in this scene though. There's no room to move around in the shuttle.
No room to move here, and they probably did that on purpose. They're like, where can we put Archer where he doesn't walk around all the time? But anyway, so I did like the fact that they're using their kind of inspection pod here to figure out what's going on with that. Wow, that was quite a screen caught.
And then there's like this transition.
That kind of reminds me of the scene in Ghostbusters where
this is after the credits, though.
Dan Aykroyd's in bed. Kind of reminds me of that. Yes, this is after the credits.
Right.
But basically they're inspecting the damage, and we basically learn that they're going to be limited to about warp 2. And on top of that, it's going to take a awfully long time to get to Jupiter Station, which is now
a decade.
It's going to be more than a decade, where before it wouldn't have been.
Warp 2, yeah. So they have to put out a distress call here, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, this is something that I kind of like, because I don't think we've seen much of this. Like, have we ever seen any Starfleet ship in any of the other series kind of say, okay, we've had it. We gotta get help. I don't think there's that many.
I'm trying to.
There's that one Next Gen episode where they're helping. They're asking the Romulans for help. But
not the main ship. Like in Deep Space Nine does it sometimes with the runabouts.
Yes, yeah,
but never the Defiant.
Yeah, it's usually like the shuttles will do this. I can't remember. Maybe Voyager.
Voyager might have been one. Yeah. I guess. Well, it'd be fitting if anybody would do it. It would be Voyager. But I did like the premise of this episode. I thought that was kind of neat. The teaser kind of gets us interested. I thought so. It's
and they said they almost got blown up by these Romulans last week, which which is fine. That it could have been a lot worse, I guess, but they're still the ship's.
We've already established it wasn't fine, Dave.
Wasn't fine. It was a relentless piece of shit.
It was a relentless piece of shit,
and it couldn't have been any worse.
Oh, it couldn't have been this guy.
Never say that, Kevin.
Yeah, there's always worse. They
could throw Neelix in there, and maybe some Alexander as well.
I just like leaving this screenshot on
and Wesley's sweaters from the first two seasons of Next Gen.
Yeah, like
actually, Malcolm wearing Wesley's sweaters from the first season of Next Gen would have made that episode worse.
I'd rate that episode a 10. I do like this that they make it look like he's pregnant and pushing his baby.
Yeah,
it's almost like a baby. It's almost like a delivery. Yeah.
And Phlox is just kind of like, stop being a bitch, basically.
How come, normally they wear those blue underwear, but not for this one. He's wearing like these boxers and.
Well, it's because he's not on active duty.
I guess you wear the loose and free ones.
They don't have the agreement with the underwear company for every scene, only some scenes. So what can you do?
This is some interesting shots here. As Phlox has been giving him like his Denoblian bloodworms or whatever.
Another wonderful and then they make performance from Phlox.
Phlox is great through this whole episode, and we get a decent amount of them in this episode too, which is nice. Overall, I like the fact that he's like, you're not using those bloodworms again. We still haven't found one of them.
There's still one stuck.
They'll come out eventually.
Yeah.
And you're just comforting. Like, wow, Phlox, you're kind of an ass. But all right.
Yeah, I got a bloodworm inside me indefinitely, but
it'll work its way out.
It'll work its way
eventually.
Out.
It's all good. It's old country medicine here from Denobia.
Yeah, he is kind of like a country medicine thing, yeah. So then we go to this scene here where basically Archer's in his room and the creak has come back in his floor or whatever that he hinted at in one of the early episodes. And this is clearly not the same dog. For anybody who pays attention to the dogs,
I definitely don't.
This is not Porthos, but this is Porthos now. They had to get a different.
It's a
Porthos,
beagle.
It's a beagle. It's good enough. But either way, Porthos is alerted to the sound, and he's like, "Oh, that creak in the floor is back again. Trip told me you fixed it. Well, Trip doesn't fix anything. We already know this.
Does he have more important things to fix than a creak in the floor? Like, I don't know, half the saucer section blown out from a ramen.
Yeah, like at this point. Yeah,
the creek keeps coming back because Archer can't stand still. He doesn't.
That's right. He's wearing out the floor plates.
He's wearing out the plates. Yeah,
he's wearing out the floor plates. But anyway, yeah. So we end up getting, he basically tells Hoshi, which we kind of missed in the teaser part. But in the teaser part, he basically tells Hoshi, it's time to
send a distress call.
Don't
give too many details.
Make it kind of vague, and then see who responds back. And a Tellarite responds back,
which I find interesting.
Which is neat, I thought.
We don't get any Tellarites in this episode, though. It's all
no Tellarites in the episode, unfortunately.
I like T'Pol's description of them, though.
Yeah,
they're disagreeable, but mostly trustworthy.
Yeah. But so with that, basically the Tellarites tell them, here's some coordinates, go there, they'll fix you up, kind of thing. So they end up 2 days later, they end up finding this place, and they show up, and it's basically 2 Coke cans with a little thing holding onto it.
It's 2 Coke cans in space with a little thing in the middle.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but I thought the design was pretty cool. Like the idea that this thing adapts to whatever ship it's going to be repairing. I thought that was kind of cool. And the fact that it has 2 bays.
This episode.
What's that?
I said this is a really cool idea, this whole episode.
Yeah, it is a neat idea. And the end is really not. You don't really expect the ending to be what it is, and it's interesting. But we'll get to that. But basically, they approach it. They try to communicate. Nothing's communicating with it. When they get to within a certain, distance from the thing, all of a sudden it scans them. And when it scans them, then all of a sudden it starts adapting itself to the size of the saucer section, and it can basically, there you go. There's a bright light. Bright light equals scan in this show. So if there's a bright light, then you're getting scanned.
That's a serious scan.
It's a very serious scan. And then the station starts adapting. It basically starts expanding, and then which I thought was pretty cool.
Like, what could go wrong here? Like, they're like, I guess we should just fly into this thing and see.
Well, and if you notice, it's T'Pol that basically tells them that. She's like, well, they kind of gave us an invitation, didn't they? It's like, not really. They just changed the
where are these Tellarites that were supposedly told us to come here? Like, they're
well, and that's kind of the thing is, you got a little bit of mystery going on, right? Because at this point, you don't know who actually made this thing. We never actually find out.
No.
But what I thought was interesting when later with the bodies and stuff, which we'll get into, there's some interesting things there. So I thought that was kind of cool. But anyway, so the Enterprise basically docks with the space station, goes in. It turns out it's got like a lounge and everything. It's basically like, when you go to get your oil changed. This is the equivalent of a Jiffy Lube or whatever.
It's where you go to get your free coffee and newspaper,
Yeah, this is where you go to get your free coffee and newspaper while they charge you and then forget to put the drain
fried
plug back in.
catfish.
Yeah, pan-fried
catfish. I was going to get that.
One pan-fried catfish.
Well, of course you're going to get that. But anyway, so the three of them go down and basically they end up in this room. The room pulls up all the schematic. It brings up in red everything that's broken on the ship, which they thought was kind of impressive. And it is. It's a neat concept, the fact that it just scanned the ship and it figures out everything that's wrong. And it also scans the people, and it actually adapted the atmosphere of the station to what they can breathe and all that, because I think they mentioned something. It was like
helium.
240 degrees Celsius or something like that.
It was like super cold and it was like helium atmosphere. So I want to know what alien species was breathing helium and living.
Well, and that's
Sounds
also
like
part of
green.
the intrigue, right?
It might have been the Breen. Yeah, that might
Breen,
have been
maybe.
what it was.
Yeah, might have been the Breen. But either way, it's very utilitarian, very basic. Even the props look very much like from like something you would see in like the original series, except for obviously this. And then they find out that they have to compensate the thing for all this thing. And he's like, well, 200 liters of warp plasma, we just throw that shit out anyway, so we'll just give it to them. It's warp plasma, as far as I remember, is an offshoot of the warp engines, is it not? Like, it's basically
the plasma is what creates the warp displacement field. So it's kind of what the engine generates, kind of.
Yeah, it kind of generates it, right?
From
it's
the
like
reaction. The matter antimatter reaction creates plasma, and that plasma is basically what the engines burn in order to. So it's kind of interesting that, like, whatever this station wants, it's a pretty much it's a great bargain. They're like, which I think they do as like because we know that they have like sort of an ulterior motive from the ending, and that this is kind of like almost to throw suspicion off, because if it was all free, it would almost seem too good, even more too good.
Yeah, you would think it's a trap, like a rat trap or something with a piece of cheese in it. Like it's. So obviously they have to pay something. So he's like, wow, we could spare warp plasma. That's fine. So they're like, okay, well, let's do that. And he's like, well, something's fishy here. And Trip's like, shit, I don't have to do any work. This is fantastic.
He's like, we don't have a choice. Like, it's gonna like, it would take us so long. They're willing to go along with this for as long as possible.
Now, my question is, are they going to fix the things that still need to be fixed as well? Like, do they fix everything? Like, do we get some more, plasma phasers or whatever it was that they kept leaving without? Do we get more?
They fixed the creak in the
now?
floor.
They fixed
the scratch on the hull.
The scratch on the hull. He said he would fix.
Yeah, which was the scratch from the first episode.
First episode, yeah.
Yeah, because he bumps into the hull.
I like callbacks. That's pretty cool.
It was a clever callback. Yeah, it was a clever callback. And being a show, this is the first show that they did all CG, right? So this didn't have a practical model that they shot or anything like that.
This episode won an Emmy, I found out, for visual effects. It was
really. I didn't know
for all the CG work.
There's a lot of CG in this episode.
And it is good. It is quite good.
And it's-
It
and
holds
it's-
up even today.
It's good how they kind of integrate the green screen windows and
Yeah, the green screen windows look a little off now when you see it in high def, like in good high def right now. But overall, I think, I think it's well deserving. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on, and they use it. Yeah, like there's a lot of background window shots in this episode. Like every couple scenes, somebody's standing in front of a window that they can see the Enterprise getting repaired.
Yeah, right. Like Star Trek hadn't done a lot of this up, like on TV at least, up until
No.
this point, right? Like
Yeah.
this was kind of really new and cool for them to be doing this on a TV show. On movies, it's a different story. They got a bigger budget and whatever.
Of course,
but
yeah.
Just
I
looked,
mean, in the original series, they didn't even have windows.
yeah,
Yeah, they were all faked, or if they were a window, it was just like a painting
Star
behind it,
it's like a Starfield or whatever.
a Starfield or something.
But the Enterprise, it doesn't have many.
But yeah, for an episode that happened 20 years ago in the CG that's 20 years old now, I think it holds up really well.
Oh, yeah.
Looks good.
They found a replicator too. Like it's kind of showing.
Yeah, this is a replicator, which at this point in history they don't have. So, they're like, this is awesome, right?
They have a primitive version of it. They have their protein resequencer.
They have
but
a
that's-
protein resequencer, yeah, which is kind of like that, but not exactly like that. But I think it's pretty cool. But it's interesting that like everybody's impressed.
He's really impressed.
He's like, well done. I like water, that kind of thing.
Oh, don't forget the catfish.
There's the catfish and the
One
fact
pan
that
fried catfish.
the fact that their replicator even like does a good presentation is
Yeah.
pretty impressive.
They even look like, what's the best way to present this? And
they
put
got
the
that
little
nice
lemon twist.
twirled lemon twist there, yeah. And a little bit of the slight piece of cornbread there, like wow.
Some collard greens, I believe, on the side.
Collard greens, yeah, by the looks of it, yeah. And those, even the utensils are great. Like it's a good thing. And he's like, I'll eat catfish from some random place that I've never. Like this is the equivalent of buying sushi at a fucking like gas station. Like,
Wow.
why
That's
are you
really
doing
well
this?
put-
You have a
You
ship
are
that you can
going
eat
to get
on.
diarrhea.
Well, she drank the water first, so this was him following her lead, I guess.
Yeah. But
Archer's having none of it though.
Archer's like, I'm not eating any of that stuff.
He's got
trust these
instincts.
people."
His instincts are.
He's like,
going
there's
on.
something fishy going on here, and it ain't the catfish.
It ain't catfish. Well, they're also he's annoyed the fact that they scanned the entire database. He's like, they figured out the genome of the fish and like the recipe. And he's like, well, it would have been nice if they asked us for our entire database first, right? So this is kind of like
you're getting repairs in space. Shut up.
this is like his first red flag, I think. Like that, there's just
Yeah, he's already on to something here, and he's like, "There's something really weird going on here." But everybody else is like, "Cool, we don't have to do any work." Especially Trip. Trip's like, "Yeah, okay, cool."
this
I
made
get to
his
sit
life a
around
lot
and do fuck
easier.
all while I'm waiting for this.
Yeah,
So it's like, that's good. Now, obviously, I'm sure he's checking the repairs and stuff like that, but either way. So the station basically starts the repair cycle. It gives them a manifest of what it's going to do at what times and stuff like that, so that way they can make sure there's nobody around in that area. And then we go to the sickbay where they've actually they're fixing people as well. So because they figured out that Malcolm has an injury to his leg, they've sent this device to go fix it.
from
And
the episode
basically-
Minefield, the greatest episode of Star Trek Enterprise. No?
Shut up, Dave. But anyway, well, so good that you gave it a 7.5.
Half, yeah. I've
Yeah,
stayed by my
wow.
rating.
I think Kevin gave it a 0.
Yes,
He
I
did.
did.
I gave it a 2.
And
Adam
Violet.
also gave it, but Davin gave it a 9, so it's up.
Yeah,
to
but
3
Davin
points.
gives everything that has Star Trek on it at least a 7.
Uh,
I don't think he's ever lowly rated anything.
he doesn't like some things.
He's a Star Trek optimist, really.
There are some things he doesn't like. He doesn't like Discovery very much. I would say that's his least
Well,
favorite.
I don't blame him. But anyway, either way, like they send this device, and then Phlox is like, "Yeah, it'd be really great if we could get one of these things. Maybe we can negotiate it." And then it's like, "Okay,
Nope.
it's done," and then it zips it away. It's
Yeah.
like, and he's like, "Oh, shit."
Yeah, it's kind of like it was kind of like a dermal regenerator, right? It was kind of
Basically,
like
same idea.
something-
Yeah.
Yeah,
something that later on we'll take for granted in like next gen,
But
something
even just the fact that they're aware of these two advanced technologies at this point, is kind of interesting to me, because they see replicators in full force. They saw we know like last season they saw the holodeck, basically like a more and now
they're seeing all these
generator.
technologies that later on are just staples, like
100 or
normal
200
things.
years down the road will just be part of Starfleet.
Yeah, they're
tech.
just normal things. But I think it's cool that they're calling to that stuff, though. And I've said it many times. Like, I like the fact that the screens, we don't have any sort of interface that's this is a very basic square interface on everything, and it's a very basic idea. And then basically we go into essentially here we are again with Archer staring at these repairs happening. I guess this is supposed to show us that he is suspicious of something.
Bakula is trying to give us his best
his grumpy face.
My captain instincts aren't quite going.
My spidey senses are tingling. But anyway, it's wow, he even looks even more depressed than that shot. But anyway,
someone died, not yet, but they will. But
he basically says to her, he's like, it seems a little wow, apparently my dog's getting yelled at. He basically is like, don't you find this a little odd that like they're doing all this for like plasma?
Yeah. And she's like, no, I'm not curious at all.
She's like,
but she also makes a very good point. Not every species is in it for money. Maybe they're just people that wanted to help, or maybe
truly altruistic people.
Which we have seen in the future. A series. There are species like that, and then there's other species that are totally commerce, like the the Ferengi, for instance, and which they've already encountered. So it would make sense that he would kind of.
We never found out actually who built this thing either, right? So
no, never do. We know who didn't build it based on the aliens that we saw later on, but but either way, it's interesting. But I like the fact that they put all these different species in that we've never seen, nor has this crew seen before.
There was a Klingon in
there. There was a couple Klingons in there, and then there was one that looked like a Borg, but I don't know if it was a Borg because I didn't get a good shot.
Well, I have some screenshots of that. We'll go through when we get to it. But...
And there was a Kazon as well.
Kazon?
There was a Kazon
there.
Well, apparently they are. So, but anyway, either way, it's one of those things that it's interesting, all the little things that they put into this episode. So anyway, we go back to this like kind of lounge area, I guess it is, at the service station, for lack of a better word.
And what's that on the table there, Jody?
Oh, that looks like a baked potato.
Yeah,
baked potato, all the fixins.
I can smell it.
Yeah, me too.
I can smell it. What's that from?
Survivor.
Oh, then no one cares. Okay, anyway, let's keep moving.
Wait, Sam wants us to do a Survivor Star Trek brand steal, which I know you guys. So basically, it's a virtual. It's like there's a Survivor simulator.
Okay.
Called Brand Steel, where you can like run a whole season of Survivor, but you can do it with like kind of computer simulations of like characters. Yeah, so you could populate with Star Trek characters based on their like personality attributes and see who wins.
Kevin's already falling asleep.
Yeah. These guys aren't Survivor guys, Sam. So you're gonna lose them on there.
No.
But I could probably get Jaemeel down for that. Maybe
we see grass once in a while too. But anyway. Well, you do, Dave.
Something. The crew, though, they're having cakes.
Go back a frame. Okay, so you have Hoshi and Mayweather there. Yeah. This is only to establish that the two were together at one point because this factors in later on.
Right.
But it looks like it's a throwaway scene, but it's actually not.
No.
And then we have a bunch of the
crew in the
different
background,
crew people around, and then we have these two, and he's like, "Hey, we got a supercomputer and it's huge. These guys got a supercomputer and it's not huge. We should check it out." And he's like, as a security officer, no. I've had enough adventure and I left
like,
that.
Did you try asking the computer?
Your inquiry was not recognized.
Yes, which is the default it says when it doesn't understand something or doesn't care. But
your inquiry was not recognized.
But at this point, number one, you have the chief engineer and an armory officer, and now they're talking about basically breaking into part of the station.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, why isn't Malcolm basically saying, like, as the security guy, I'm going to go with this is a bad idea? And then Trip's like, well, I want to see what it looks like.
Well, there are a couple of idiots is the short answer, I think.
Yeah, these two are constantly in trouble.
Yeah.
And it's almost like it's like frickin' frack here. Like these two guys are completely
They're trying to
idiots all
do
the
a
time.
Tom Paris and Harry Kim kind of thing. going on here.
Yeah. Without all the, sexual vibes going on.
But it is cool just to see
There's
all
some
that.
weird Voyager episodes that went a little far.
I do like these repair shots we see outside the window. It makes the scene so much more visually interesting.
Very cool to look at, yeah. And the fact that it's also in motion too, which is also nice because they could have just did a still image there, and we probably would have been okay with it.
Right.
But the fact that this is in motion and we see the arms like spot welding and doing repairs and stuff, and then here's good old Trip going, well, here's a way we can get into trouble. Let me show you how.
Yeah. He's like, we got a map, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm game. Is there gonna be bourbon?
Is there gonna be bourbon? Can we get drunk and eat mashed potatoes? It'll be fun.
We can use it to seal the cracks in the walls. Yeah, that'd be great."
So then they take out the furnace filter, which I thought was really impressive. That is literally a furnace filter.
It's just a furnace
because
filter.
that looks identical to the furnace filter in my furnace.
Spray painted white, I guess, right?
Not even.
You can get 'em
That's
white.
literally just a furnace filter.
Yeah,
But you know what? It works. It works fine.
Yeah.
Works
Oh, I like how
fine.
he's got him up on his shoulders.
So
Here.
this scene doesn't make any sense to me because Trip goes up and then Trip with one hand pulls Malcolm up.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Oh, they're both so strong. That's how.
Oh, yes, clearly.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
what you do in Starfleet.
That's one thing Malcolm's
training.
known for is being strong.
Look, big strong guys here on the Enterprise.
So this is the obligatory somebody has to be half naked scene in each episode.
It's obligatory. There's a quota.
Yeah, there's a quota. Mayweather got it this time. Dude's stacked. Like, good for him.
Yeah.
Dude's totally stacked. He's got some sort of either pepper mill or butt plug behind him on the thing there. I don't know what that is.
What's going on? Oh, that thing.
Yeah, it's
It is definitely a sex toy of some description.
It's got to be some sort of sex toy. But
Oh, man.
anyway, it is what it is.
I wonder who's using it.
I don't know. Maybe we'll find that out later. It could just be himself. Who knows? But either way, he looks over at it, goes, "Man, I wish I could use that right now." And then he's actually talking to the communication system at this point.
He thinks he's talking to Archer. And Archer calls him. He thinks Archer calls him down to the shuttle bay, right?
Yeah. Basically, Archer comes on the comms and says, "I really could use you, Mayweather. Can you come down?" And he's like, "Yeah, I guess I'm off right now, but yeah, I guess, asshole. I guess I'll come down
Guess
there."
my boss needs me to see me downstairs.
I got nothing else to do anyway.
It's 11:30 at night, by the way.
I was gonna play with my butt plug, but I didn't. I got other things. I guess I gotta go deal with this first. So then we're back to frickin' Frack here, who have decided they're gonna crawl through ventilation chambers in this thing, which obviously pose some sort of reason. But either way, they're going through it, and then all of a sudden they trip an alarm, and get beamed right back to the bridge of their ship. Now, I like this scene because right after they look up, you see T'Pol, and T'Pol's just kind of got this look up. What the fuck are you two doing? She's got like unimpressed sister face.
She's got that wait until your father gets home look.
Yeah, like wait until Archer figures out what you just did, you jackasses. I'm getting tired of being the mom of this crew, is basically what she's thinking of right now. And then here's Mayweather going, "Do. I'm in an area that I shouldn't be in, but I'm in anyway because my boss told me to come down here."
Yeah, because he says, "Oh, I thought that area was restricted right now," and the fake Archer is like, "Who cares about that? Come down."
Yeah,
And,
it doesn't matter. Get down here.
We see like this damaged, whatever it is, relay.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's so basically it's drawing him down there to essentially kill him. Or at least that's what we think at this
To
point.
kidnap him, but and also plant the fake body.
Oh, Sam says he graduates high school Thursday. Good for you.
Good job, Sam.
Good job. Sam.
Thursday, though. I don't
Yeah.
know. You
Perhaps
might,
a dictionary might be the next thing that you need to brush up on a bit, but past that, you're all right.
yeah. And
Anyway,
Sam's going for,
congratulations.
he says he's going for BB Can 11. He's auditioning.
Oh, really? Well, good luck.
Well,
It'd be kind of cool if
Was there? I don't think there was any Newfoundlanders on the most recent season, so we could use a Newfoundlander this season.
I don't think that's ever been stated, has it? That we could use a Newfoundlander.
Well, no, I'm the first to say it. Actually,
okay.
so
You coined the phrase. Okay.
We'll go down in history, Dave.
I'll go down to history. Exactly.
Anyway, so there's some sort of accident, or at least it's off screen. We don't actually see it. And these two are being reprimanded by Archer. They're basically both like, he's like, you guys are so fucking retarded. Like, how many times do we have to tell you not to do this crap, basically?
Yeah,
And
he's
they're
like, what if that had transported you into space?
Yeah. Well, I would say you have two problems that just got solved, Archer, but whatever. Anyway.
Yeah. Again,
But-
this is the best Earth had to offer for the first mission.
Well, this might not have been the best, but it's what was available. So
Yeah.
there you go. But they also sent him out without any plasma cannons, so what do you want? But anyway, so
Looks so sad.
he confines them both. He confines them both to their quarters in the meantime. But before he lets them go, he's like, "So, did you see anything over there while you're over there?" Because he's got his suspicions. Because Archer, being the extreme investigator he is,
The gumshoe that he is.
yes, he knows all. But anyway, so he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to think about this." So then we go to the bay where now Mayweather, the dead Mayweather, is there.
Yeah.
And he's clearly dead.
He looks pretty rough.
Now, at this point, I don't know about you guys, but I was kind of excited. I was like,
Yep.
hey, maybe we lost Mayweather.
But I knew we didn't.
Yeah, we all
That's the
knew
problem.
he survives the series. So
For a
it's,
second there, I had a glimpse of hope, and then I'm like, wait a second. I've seen other episodes with him.
but like
So,
when he
but
tells him Archer he's dead, and I guess this would have been the first. They haven't actually lost a crewman, right? At this point.
well, they've lost crewmen, but they haven't lost anybody in like the senior staff.
But has anyone who died on when did they lose any? Like,
They had a couple losses about 4 or 5 episodes back.
They did.
Yeah,
Is that?
I can't remember what it was, but there was a couple crew members that died. There was like 5 of them or something, wasn't there?
Are you remembering that, Kevin? Is that?
Or was that a different?
I think
Star
that might
Trek
have
show.
Strange New Worlds.
Oh, maybe it was Strange New Worlds then.
I don't. I think this would have been the first death. Yeah, like they've had people get pretty injured and stuff, but I don't think anyone's actually died yet.
Now, I'll give Archer credit here though. He does react fairly well. Like he reacts the way that he probably would, like which is, he's kind of angry, but he's also disappointed that it's happened, right? So he portrays that, I think, fairly well. Like I've said it before, like he can act, just not on this show. Because
that's a matter of opinion, I think.
I've seen him in some other stuff.
He sometimes he's okay. He's okay. It could be worse.
Oh yes,
but
absolutely.
I wouldn't give him an Emmy for acting per se.
Yeah. So basically, he gets angry and he's like, find out what happened, basically. And Trip's like, well, looks like something blew up over here, Captain. That's basically what he said. There was more technical jargon there, but that's basically it.
Yeah, well, Archer wants answers. Why was Mayweather even down here? Because of course he didn't call.
Yeah, he didn't
Mayweather
call
down
it, but
here. So there's a big mystery.
They don't know that yet.
There's a big mystery as to why he would even be here. It doesn't make any sense, and they can't figure it out. So not only is he dead, but they don't really have any kind of explanation to it, and so it's just very senseless, which is the worst. If you're gonna die in Star Trek, if you die a senseless death, like a Tasha Yar death, that's the worst.
You pulled a Tasha Yar.
Yeah.
But so even though these guys are all confined to their quarters, apparently they're hanging out right now here.
Well, they have a job to do now, murder investigation,
yeah.
I guess, or death. And
I can understand the security officer doing that. I don't think the chief engineer needs to really be doing it, but
I think because it was the ship thing.
Either way, they have to get their screen time. I get it. But yeah, so basically they look at this, they figure out something's happened, and then Archer's like all grumpy and mad. So he goes back over to the station, and he's like, somebody tell me what happened. And it's like, your command.
Your inquiry was not recognized.
Your inquiry, there you go.
This thing reminds me of a cloaking device.
Yeah, it does
It loo-
actually.
It looks like an old cloaking device. Yeah, and well, I was saying to Jody at the top of the show, the director of this episode is Roxanne Dawson, Belana Torres herself, who was doing the voice of this computer.
Your inquiry was not recognized.
Which kind of is like a throwback to that episode of Voyager where what was that called? The Dreadnought, like the Dreadnought missile that had Belana Torres'
Oh,
voice.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was her voice, but that was more distinctly Belana Torres. And so, like, you play a really good evil computer, Roxanne Dawson. You should come back for this and do this here.
Her and Jeffrey Combs should do a collab.
Yeah,
Evil computers.
Exactly.
I will produce a whole fleet of murder drones.
Murder drones. So, but yeah, and we even get the like hell, the hell view here.
I like that. I like
yeah, yeah. But look at how angry he's getting. He's like, "Urgh."
He's like, Mayweather's dead.
Mayweather's dead, and I have to write a letter to his parents, and that's gonna suck.
Yeah, he's mad.
Past that, I don't really care about Mayweather.
This is the beginning of Angry Archer, Jody, that we're gonna get a lot in the Zindi.
Angry Archer shows up a lot in the second season.
He's unbuttoning that button. He's not.
Oh, he's getting pissed off all the time in the second season.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so yeah. Now I like the fact that there's a manifest of everything they're doing. I thought that was pretty cool. So I'm sure it's all readable at one point.
Everything's in English too, which is great.
Yeah, well, it adapted to them, right? So that makes sense. But anyway, he's so angry at this thing, and he's like, "I want to speak to the manager." And he's basically pulling a Karen at a Walmart.
Customer's always right.
Yeah, and then Jackass is like, "The customer's always right," which anybody who works in retail knows that that's completely not true. But anyway, you try to, but you can't. But anyway, so yeah, so then Phlox is kind of doing a post-mortem here. But basically he's going through it, and then Hoshi comes down out of the blue, and she's like, we find out that Hoshi and like Mayweather apparently are like really good friends. Like they're playing pranks on each other and stuff, which is kind of nice for character building, because I always look at Hoshi as being somebody who doesn't interact with anybody. So it's kind of interesting.
Well, we've talked about this, that like Hoshi, Mayweather, and even Phlox, all three of them don't get a ton of screen time in these first all the episodes today. We're on like the 30th or 29th episode, depending on what order you want to go in. But it's like these, like we barely have had any time with these characters. Like, and so when Mayweather dies here, I'm like, okay, well, if he died, who cares? Like, what are we losing?
Yeah, I'm not invested in Mayweather, so I don't really care if he's dead.
Like,
is really what it came down
to.
Yeah.
Lose Mayweather. Yeah. But
I thought it was kind of neat, and Hoshi kind of tells a story about how they're playing practical jokes on each other, and I guess the joke that he played on her recently was telling her that Jello was a sentient life form, and
strawberry
she
Jello.
she needed to try to communicate with it, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But overall,
that's pretty funny.
Yeah, it would have been even better if we like got a flashback of it, and like it's actually her trying to like make out like the wobbles of this Jello as
she's just trying to talk to the Jello for.
But I thought it was an interesting story to put in there. I thought that was kind of neat. It shows a little bit more character going on, and Phlox is like, when he's observing her telling the story, he's showing emotion, and like actually you kind of got a little bit of it here, which I thought was great for Phlox's character, because Phlox is always a happy guy, like he's a very big optimistic guy, and he's got that creepy smile that he does once in a while, but past that it's you don't see too much in the sad Phlox, which
only when he's responsible for like a patient dying, or it was something that he directly caused. Otherwise, he doesn't really get too hung up on anything.
But he's clearly sharing that emotional moment with Hoshi, which I thought was pretty cool. So
it's kind of a bonding moment, and then he kind of figures out that there's something.
Yeah, there's something
as they're talking.
He figures out that I guess they were doing a vaccine for something, and everybody should have these nano things in their bloodstream, and this guy does, but they're all dead and they shouldn't be dead. So even if it's been shot with this plasma thing or whatever it was,
they should have multiplied. Yeah, well, that's all. Yeah, he doesn't reveal. We don't reveal that here, but here's where he starts.
No, it gets there though. Yeah, this is where he's kind of figuring it out, right?
Back in the quarters, you got Archer. What is this, a ship?
I believe that's the freighter that he served on.
Okay.
Like that's the
Right.
long-term freighters, right?
Yeah.
They had like
That's where
solar cell
where he
kind of
was
things
as
and
a
stuff,
boomer. That's where his
the
boomer
boomer,
roots.
a boomer ship. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my guess anyway. I don't know.
How do you know that's
true,
not
but
another sex toy though?
could
We
be a
don't
sex
know.
toy as well. Maybe Archer's like, well, finally I can get a run with it.
It's a
That
different
is a
butt.
hell of a sex toy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the butt plug collection.
Hey, that's a serious sex toy. But yeah, so with that, but Archer's even mad going in here, like he's angry, and Malcolm's like, well, what do you want? I didn't find anything. Like
He's writing a letter to his sister. Is kind of what he's like. There's nothing
Yeah.
going on.
There's nothing going on here. Like there's no rhyme or reason. Even his bulletin board there is pretty well organized. Like nothing overlaps each other or anything. It's it's pretty clean quarters here. And Malcolm's just like, well, I don't know what you really want me to do here, but he was writing a letter to his sister. But past that, and he's like, well, was there anything in it? Nope, nothing. And then they kind of clue in that somebody else saw them at the same time or something like that. Some crewmen saw him on his way down to the shuttle bay.
Yeah,
But didn't
which
talk
we
to
saw
him or
earlier.
something.
Yeah, like some extra, but they didn't speak, and we're like,
Yeah.
maybe you should talk to them. Where you going, Mayweather? Why are you going at this time of night? It would have helped.
Maybe.
If you'd been a little
So either way, you have more distressful things with him. So then we go back to the sick bay. And at this point, he's like, hey, Archer, show me your arm. And Archer, without even the thought, is like, oh, okay, sure. He's like, here you go. And he's like, see, look at all these little things moving around in your bloodstream. That's because you got the vaccine. But this dead guy doesn't have that. They're all dead.
Well, they're there, but they're not moving, right?
Yeah,
They
and
should
that's
be.
because the computer that replicates these things, they can't replicate living things.
Right.
Like
Right.
single cell organisms, they can't do. It's so with this, they can't replicate that. So
They
everything's
can't
dead.
replicate anything alive, right? Either,
Yeah.
or is it
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So basically, Phlox comes to the conclusion that this isn't actually Mayweather. This is a replication of Mayweather. And then at this point, everybody's like, well, maybe he's alive then. So at this point, they're all like, well, you got over there. You were pretty close. Did you get? Do you think you can get past it? And Reed's like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. Yeah, no problem at all. Yeah. It's like, okay, but if there wasn't any problem before, then why did you end up getting beamed into this and get scorned by T'Pol there? like, it must have been harder than you thought because it happened.
Right.
But anyway, so they decide they're going to do kind of an expedition to go and look into this area that they want to get into to see what it.
Well, they come up with this whole plan here, and then they don't tell us exactly. They don't tell us that they're putting a bomb in that plasma, for instance, but that ends up paying off later, right? Because he's like, you got the payment ready?
Yeah. Sam says he's trying out for BB Canada 11, and Jody and Kevin, will you watch? You know what? I will watch if you're on it. No problem. I'll watch it.
Just like if Dave makes it, I'll be on.
If Dave made it, I'll watch that too.
Yeah.
So.
We might
I don't know if I'll
auditioning
root
against
for
each
you
other.
guys, but I'll. I'm just kidding.
All right.
But anyway, so basically, Archer's like, well, we're gonna do this kind of covert up. So, Trip, we're gonna need you to kind of delay things. So go slow with your payment and cause some shit. So basically, he shows up and he turns into like an angry customer at Walmart. He's like, well, I don't think you repaired this correctly, and I don't think you repaired that correctly, and I want to talk to somebody about this. I'm not paying anything yet. Yeah,
It's not the Starfleet spec.
It's not the Starfleet spec. Blah 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 blah.
Now,
blah.
I wonder why he here had to even talk to the computer. Could he have not just left that plasma there and just walked out of the room?
I think he was trying to tie up the computer to give them time.
Yeah, it was almost like he wanted to distract
get
the computer.
detected.
But I think a computer can think about more than one thing at once, right? Like, it's not.
This one
personal.
obviously can.
Yeah, well, they said something like it can do like 8 billion calculations per nanosecond or something like that. So,
But if
which
you're
we find
talking
out
to
later
it,
why,
if you're
but-
talking to it about, the customer's always right, it's not going to know that, you got these guys.
It's the real Kirk maneuver. Talking a computer to death.
What is
Yeah.
with you and crazy frames on this episode?
I know. I'm
You got
just
some
going
crazy ones.
like this one.
That
No,
was pretty
no.
crazy too. No, the smiling trip one. Wow, that's just creepy.
I thought it was a good one. It was a good one.
I
a good
feel
one,
like
yeah,
he's
for sure.
assaulting me.
Yeah, at this point, I don't feel comfortable. Like,
Oh, that was
Anyway.
kind of. I think that's what he was going for with this Roxanne Dawson computer.
Yeah, maybe.
And they're calling through the tubes, and because Reed's already been here once. And
Yeah, so they're like, okay, Reed, well, you know what? The last time there was a threat that you could be beamed out into space, so let's try it again.
yeah,
That's basically what they said.
it probably won't kill you again. And
It probably won't try to kill you, but you know what? Why don't you trigger it anyway, and we'll see what happens. Like, that's how much of a write-off Reed is. Like, Malcolm is just like,
he wants to die anyway.
yeah,
He always
Malcolm's
wants to
just
die.
like, I'm okay with getting killed. It's fine.
he probably volunteered for that part of the
Yeah.
mission.
So anyway, the reason why they did that was so they could figure out where the emitter was to blow it up. So they blow up the emitter, and then we're back to Trip, and then
we see like
Trip's
the
like-
plasma down there, but
yeah. So after the alarm started sounding off because they caught Malcolm, he's like, okay, well, it sounds like you have a lot of things on the go right now, so I'm just gonna leave this warp plasma here, and I'll see you later. But
Yeah,
he
it's
didn't put it on the
Please
pad.
place your compensation on the transport platform.
He clearly can't understand direction.
no,
So-
he's one of those guys at the airport doesn't know how to work the thing.
Yeah.
You
He
know.
probably also tries to put too much, weight in his bag too. But either way, so they end up doing that, and then they fuck around for a couple minutes just to try to see if they can get that little, shutter door opening.
Right.
And then T'Pol's just like, fuck it, I'll just shoot it. Like that's really what it was. And then that worked. And then they crawl into this area, and all of a sudden we see like bodies that are suspended everywhere.
This
So this
reminded
was
me a
kinda-
lot of like the Voyager pilot with the caretaker. How it had the
Caretaker,
different,
yeah.
had
There's a
those
lot of
people-
caretaker stuff in this one. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But when we see all the different bodies and stuff like that, as they're doing their pans through, we see all different species, like stuff that we've never seen before. We also see recognizable ones like Klingons. There was a Romulan there as well. I remember seeing what I thought was a Borg, but who knows at this point. You never know. The one that's over in the corner here, I don't even know what that is.
I don't know that species either.
Yeah, but we see a lot of unknown, but that's obviously a Klingon there.
right.
And T'Pol's just kind of, and the one that's like beside Mayweather has been there a long time. Like it's like mummified basically.
Right.
So-
She said most of them have neurological damage, but were there a couple like that would have been more recent that they could have saved here, or no? It seemed like there was
They said that they did it at the end. They said, well, we did a scan and everybody was too far gone except for Mayweather, which just sounds like convenience to me, but
Right.
whatever. But either way, so they find, this is very Matrix-ish kind of thing. Now, this happened a couple of years
he
after
pulls out the
Matrix,
tube
so-
out of Mayweather's wrist, and all this
Yeah,
blood comes
and all this
out,
shit
and-
just starts flying out. Yeah, well, we don't know if it's blood or like, preservation agent or something. Like, we don't know what it was.
I just find it interesting that they don't scan him or anything really. They're just
No, they're just like, fuck it, let's just rip him out.
Get him and
Not
let's
only
go.
that, but if you knew that something like this was going to be happening, which I guess they didn't really know that this is what they were going to be embracing, but wouldn't you want a medical professional with you anyway? Because like, let's say he was being tortured or something, like either way, you'd want.
Or he was
some
hooked
sort
up to a
of professional.
machine that you couldn't just pull him out of. Luckily, they were able to pull him out of this, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So basically, they did the the old way of just ripping shit out and we're good to go kind of thing.
hoping for the best.
Yeah, and then they blast the side of the area, which kind of puts them back into a hallway area where they recognize the area, and then they run back to here we go. So, and there's those phasers, boys. I love them. I love those phasers. They're
They're just blasting holes in door.
Oh yeah, they don't give a fuck at this point. They're just blowing up everything. They don't give a shit. But which leads to something later on, which I thought was really cool that they did right at the end. But so basically at this point they got Mayweather back. He's in the care of Phlox, and they're like, we need to get the fuck out of here. And that's when the computer basically grabs onto them with all these.
Yeah,
all
they're
these
ting to fly
claws that
out.
It has. Yeah. So they're
interesting that,
basically trapped in this docking bay at this point.
Trip takes the helm, which I thought was interesting here.
Well, the guy can fly the fucking ship. Like,
Sure, it's just first time we've seen him do it. You know?
It's not a shuttlecraft.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter if it's a
Yeah,
shuttlecraft
shuttle
or not.
No,
Like,
but
the
he
guy
scratches the
knows how
paint.
the engines works. Yeah.
he knows he scratches the paint on things. He's not the most careful.
Yeah, like I'm sure he's not the first pick to be flying this thing out, but you know what? He was the guy that was.
because we always see like these unnamed ensigns who come in.
Yeah,
to
somebody
relieve
always jumps
Mayweather.
in. Yeah,
but,
exactly. But anyway, so Archer's just kind of like, all right, Malcolm, do your thing. Now, I did like this little detonator thing because he's got to hit the arm button 3 times first before he can blow it up. I thought that was pretty cool. So he literally has to hit it 3 times, which is, I just like that detail.
You promised me explosions.
Yeah, well, that's right. We were going to get some explosions.
Well, and Malcolm likes to blow shit up, so this makes perfect sense. Now, this computer is smart enough to be able to repair ships it's never seen before, but it's not smart enough to know that there's some sort of detonator on this fucking
it's smart enough to make catfish, but it's not smart enough to figure this out. No.
So they do an explosion, and then Malcolm's like, "Oh shit, that didn't blow up nearly as good as I wanted it to." And then he's like, "But Malcolm,
just wait.
It has to heat up to 3,000 degrees first, and then it'll blow up some more." Like he literally talks to him like a kid, right? And then Malcolm's like, "Oh, goody." Right? And then all of a sudden it starts blowing up everything.
Yeah, I thought that was cool though. That
it was neat. Yeah.
That it wasn't going to be an instant thing. Yeah. And they're starting to get power back and whatever.
Yeah, they're getting control back of the ship. Then they're like, okay, well, there's one arm left, but it's not letting go. He's like, well, what do we do? Well, we could fire a torpedo. And he's like, I wouldn't recommend that. He's like, I don't give a fuck. Just do it.
Yeah, so I don't care what your recommendations are.
Yeah. You know what, armory officer? Why don't you just shut up and hit the button? That's basically what he's
one thing in this episode. He says, I wouldn't suggest it at this close range. And then the explosion outside the ship, pretty lackluster. Like, they had to hit that thing fucking twice for one.
Yeah.
And really, the ship couldn't withstand that from that
especially
distance?
considering it's currently engulfed in explosions from this space station, you know.
Right.
But
and we see this other one on the view.
So they had to hit it twice, and once they hit it twice, they broke free. And then they're like, okay, hightail it out of here, let's go. So they're like, okay, and they leave. And of course, it does the whole like explosion thing as they're leaving. And then they go talk to Mayweather, and Mayweather's like, oh, I feel so much better now, Captain. Thanks for coming and getting me, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, well, you know, I need somebody to fly the fucking ship. We can't let Trip do it all the time. Right? So that's basically what this is. And then Phlox, I can't remember. Phlox does say something here.
He says that like this neural thing. It was basically it turned you into a computer. It turned you into a computer.
And then they basically explained that they're using the cerebral cortex of humans and various other species to complete their basically improve their computing power. Essentially
living computers, stealing this idea from Babylon 5, of course. But you know, it's okay.
Well, I think this is a sci-fi thing that's happened many
on
times.
The idea from Babylon 5?
Maybe stealing and improving on.
I bet you more people saw this one though.
I'm sure they did.
So anyway, and then basically Phlox is like, yeah, well, you know, it's a good computer, that brain of yours.
He kind of explains, we couldn't save anybody else, et cetera, et cetera. And then he's like, I wonder who built that thing, or I wonder who it was. And you know, just like this look at the end too.
Mayweather always has this kind of like,
oh yeah, he invites him to breakfast. I forgot. He's like,
oh yeah,
because he's like, I canceled breakfast with him last week when he thought he was dead. He was all regretful of the canceled breakfast. He's like, you and me, 0800 Friday, let's have breakfast. Don't be late.
He's like, sounds great, sir.
Yeah.
How can you trust any recording of him anymore, though? Like the last time you listened to Archer told you to go down to a bay and you got killed. Or at least you got duplicated.
They're starting to get like wise to like the kinds of dangers like duplicates and things that mistaken identity, which often
and I always, whenever I see like things like this happening, I always think of Q Who, right? Because Q Who, there's this one rant where basically like Q's like, you know, this isn't a safe place. Like you're gonna die. Like there's so many ways to die. Like, you know, like this is nothing. Like
exactly.
Like you're scratching the surface of danger here. But anyway, same idea. But the one thing I did like was right when they showed you right at the end where the space station starts repairing itself.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's fucking cool.
Fucking good.
Yeah.
They usually suck at their endings. This ending was
this ending is spot on. And it almost feels like they kind of added it last minute too, because the animation's not great. This is probably the worst animation in the whole episode.
But it repairing itself is like that sort of
the sentient kind of thing going on.
It's like the end of like a slasher flick. Like they're not dead.
Yeah,
where,
right.
You know, the hand comes out of the grave, or you know,
right.
You know, the weapon shows up on the ground.
Your inquiry was not recognized.
Or that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well,
either way, I thought it was a good ending. Now I guess I got to do fun facts, don't I?
yeah, you're on deck with that.
Jeez, Adam slacking. What's this called again? Dead Stop.
Dead Stop. Well, I already said it won an Emmy for visual effects.
It did, so I don't have to do that one again.
Oh, it was nominated for an Emmy. It won a Visual Effects Society award. I'm sorry.
Well, that's still
that's
a good
that's a
award.
detail discovered by Dave.
It was a detail discovered by Dave. Exactly. All right. Okay, in the audio commentary for this episode, the writers reveal that this episode was an attempt to diverge from previous episodes of Star Trek in which the ship is critically damaged in one episode, but miraculously repaired in another, with no mention of repair work at all. So they wanted to actually point that out. And as Dave mentioned earlier, this is done by Roxanne Dawson. She was the director of this episode, who played B'Elanna Torres in Star Trek Voyager, one of my least favorite characters. But anyway, not as bad as Worf, mind you.
Out of my way.
Out of my way. Yeah, that's the one that you already said. The automated repair station's medical regenerator is a modified reuse of the exocomp from Star Trek The Next Generation Quality of Life. I thought it was.
Yeah.
It looked a lot like it. Yeah. Very cool. That's neat. I like that. So anyway, the episode shows taken for granted Federation technologies such as the food replicator and the medical regenerator before Starfleet had devised them for themselves. So there you go. So I think that was you, Dave. You mentioned that earlier.
I did. That was an observation by Dave.
Yeah. When Archer walks into Mayweather's quarters, a model of the Nomad probe from its initial configuration in Star Trek The Changeling can be seen.
Oh, that's what that was. Okay.
That's the Changeling one. Okay, fair enough. All right. The plot of this episode continues from Star Trek Enterprise's Minefield, which is the episode we saw last week, with Enterprise seeking repairs after being damaged in that episode, as well as Reed still recuperating from the injuries suffered during that encounter. This is one of the relatively few episodes outside of Season 3's Xindi arc, which carries on directly from a previous episode without being a two-parter. So this did happen a couple times, yeah, but the Xindi arc is about the only one that's kind of a continual thing for the most part. And as I said at the beginning of this episode, you really don't need to see Minefield to kind of get what's going on here for the most part, except for why is Reed.
It's all about the continuity. But just to show it there, that is totally the exocomp. That's
100%.
Totally the exocomp.
Now that I look at it, I'm like,
just pointing up. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. I like that. That's nice. Oh, here you go. The air filter removed by Trip to enter the cooling duct is a standard 3M 16 by 20 by 1 filter used in HVAC systems. There you go. I called it.
You did.
I think anybody can see it though.
I thought it was at least
this
like
may have
dressed
simply
up a
been
bit.
this may have simply been a joke, as it's funny to think of such an advanced space station would use such a simple filtration technology. But it may be a nod to some humans commonly purifying their air. Enterprise likely itself would be advanced enough not to use such bulky filters. In fact, there's no trace of them in the ducts when Hoshi crawls through in Star Trek Enterprise Shockwave Part 2, which was a couple episodes back. But the station scan did read Enterprise's archives and may have learned that the filter's being used on Earth. So there you go.
So maybe
That kind of makes sense.
I guess. Yeah.
That's the same filter I use in my furnace, so that totally makes sense. So there you go. The prop in the middle of the diagnostic room seems to be the artificial intelligence from Star Trek Voyager's think tank. That is.
Yeah, like the thing that Kevin said was like a cloaking device.
Yes, that's what it is. Yeah, totally. That makes so they reused a lot of shit this episode.
Yeah, you don't. Where's a good shot of it here? I know I have. Like,
you had one. You had one with Archer when Archer goes in to talk to it.
Yeah, here's kind of one here. Like that it's like this with the one with Jason Alexander, Think Tank, and there's like a compute like an artificial intelligence character. Maybe it's the same character. Maybe this is the artificial intelligence that would go on to join the think tank. That would be something.
That'd be weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the working title for this episode was originally called Slip 2.
That's a bad title.
Don't get it. Yeah, I like this Dead Stop part better.
Yeah, Dead Stop's good title.
Yeah. All right, and several costumes and props from this episode were sold off in an online auction, including the diagnostic hologram component from the automated repair station. So there you go.
The diagnostic hologram?
Yeah, the thing that was showing the ship. There
But
was like a little thing that was like projecting like a 3D model of the ship.
that's the same thing we were just looking at. Like
Yeah, the top part of it, basically.
Yeah, they auctioned that off. Okay.
Yeah, I guess. Alrighty. And well, I guess we'll end with this one. Okay, so among the alien bodies hidden in the repair station, a Klingon, a Vulcan, and a Kardashian can be seen. This is the only appearance of a Kardashian in
Cardassian.
Cardassian. I say that all the time too. In Enterprise, although they would later be mentioned in Star Trek Enterprise's Observer Effect.
So there was a Cardassian there and a Klingon and a what?
Vulcan.
A Vulcan was there, but could have been a Romulan.
Yeah. At least those are the ones you can definitely identify. The rest of them are so far back you can't really see it. Yeah. So yeah, that's about it. We're good.
All right. Well, let's head over to the ratings.
Now, IMDb right now holds a rating of 8 out of 10.
Pretty good. Jody, what do you give this episode?
I'm gonna give this a 8.5.
8.5. It's better than you like it better than last week's, it seems.
Anything is better than last week's.
Okay, Adam's not here.
I think last week's episode was one of the lowest ones I've rated.
I'd give it an 8.
Yeah.
And also an 8. It's a good episode. Right. Good, solid episode.
And now you guys have highlighted my rating for 7.5 from last week.
We did because we wanted you to explain that.
I thought it was like
because
a whatever.
You're on drugs.
I thought it was a whatever episode. I agree. I'm going to take it down to 7. And
that doesn't help.
That's where I leave it.
But you have to leave it yellow.
Yeah, got to leave it yellow. It'll always be questioned.
It'll always be questionable.
That is the one that will always question. We're
right,
like, what was Dave thinking?
It's like I think 0. It's hard for it to be a 0, guys. Like you have to be.
Well, I can't say I agree with Kevin on the 0. There's got to be something in there that wasn't bad.
No,
even if it was an external shot of the ship or something.
No,
like, there's got to be something
on the outside of the ship, and even though it's hard to walk on the outside of the ship, he still delivers all of his lines on the outside of the ship while walking the fuck around.
Yeah. Oh, it wasn't like my favorite by any means, but I didn't think it was like the worst. I agree that it was a weak introduction of the Romulans, especially chronologically speaking. Like this is how you introduce the Romulans. So they're just like a bunch of aliens who yell at you over the comm, and they have minds and they have cloaks, but that's it. And I guess their language is different enough from Vulcan that you're not going to pick up on them being the same species or originally like from the same original thing. Okay. And Jody, next week we got A Night in Sickbay.
A Night in Sickbay, which is not one of my favorite episodes, but it's not a terrible episode.
Is it going to be Phlox?
It's Phlox, yeah.
There's a lot more Phlox in this episode.
It's basically like it's an episode dedicated to him. Right?
It's basically Phlox and Archer for almost the entire episode.
And Porthos? Isn't
Porthos is in there, but half the time I think it's just like a model. I don't even think it's actually the dog.
Right.
They probably couldn't get him to stay in there for that long without moving.
Right.
But basically the synopsis is after previously offending the Cretaceans, those were the guys that like they ate in front of them or something and they were angry about it.
Oh yeah, okay.
A couple episodes back. Enterprise attempts to make a better second impression only to upset the alien race once again. A frustrated Captain Archer returns from the planet only to be further upset to find that his dog Porthos has been affected by a pathogen native to the world. So basically, the episode is Archer being worried about his dog, and basically, the dog was the offense on this one. They brought
and Phlox trying to treat the dog, but it's all from like Phlox's point of view of the episode.
It's basically Phlox's point of view for most of the episode. You get the occasional Archer.
It's kind of like him writing the letter again, isn't it?
Does he say this terrible story? Does his
the idea of it
save this terrible story?
No, it's a decent ending.
Okay,
I wouldn't say it's incredible or anything. Jody, do you watch kids shows? Not a lot of them, but I guess it depends on what you define as a kid show.
Do you watch Fraggle Rock?
I have watched Fraggle Rock before.
Then he goes. He's watched them,
but I don't watch them now.
Right.
But That's a very random question for me. I don't know why. That would be up,
He wants to know. The fans want to know, man.
I have no problem answering questions.
Yeah.
So, but anyway.
He wants you and Kevin to try out for Big Brother candidate as well.
Never gonna happen.
Not gonna ever happen.
Never
come on, Final Four. We're going.
No,
No?
it'll never happen. You know what? I will root on you, Dave. I will root on Sam, but I will not root on Kevin because Kevin won't be there and I won't be there either. So I can't root for myself either.
Yeah,
So,
no way.
All
we
right,
have
well,
no
then-
problem sitting at a bar watching you guys, sipping on some suds, but that's about it.
All right. Well, then we gotta go, Sam. We gotta go for the rest of them, and we're gonna represent.
And speaking of going, I don't have anything. But
What do we got
have
going on the?
What do we have? Ah, there you go. Kevin's got it. What do we got going on this channel, Dave?
Well, you know that Star Trek Deep Space Nine at 9ish is back.
It is.
Kevin and Jeff and I, we did the return last Wednesday in our new time slot. We just did the two-parter In Purgatory's Shadow and By Inferno's Light.
Well, your new day, not new time spot.
New day. Sorry. This Wednesday, we're gonna be talking about Dr. Bashir, I presume. Which
So are you now Wednesdays all the time, or is this just temporary?
at least until the fall, I think, or at least until the ball hockey wraps up, and then we'll look at moving to maybe again. But so we're gonna be talking about that this Wednesday. Dr. Bashir, I presume.
You're near deep in the Dominion War at this point.
We're getting
right?
into the Dominion stuff. It's season 5. So if you want to hear our
is this Bashir, I presume, that episode?
It's that one. It's got Robert Picardo. It's got his parents in that one.
This is when you learn his
He's
past,
genetically
basically, right?
enhanced, yeah. Exactly. So that's coming up this Wednesday, and then we have Strange New Worlds right now. That's ongoing in their first season. We're gonna be talking about episode 8.
A couple more episodes left.
Yeah, episode 8 of season 1.
They're only doing 10, right? Or is it 12
10.
for this one? Yeah.
Or maybe 13. The Elysian Kingdom is the next episode. We'll be talking about that this Thursday.
That sounds like a Strange New World.
Sounds like it could be. That was your criticism of the last one. They didn't go to a new world.
Yeah. It's called Strange New Worlds. Show me some new worlds.
Well, they would. Yeah, exactly. That was. I don't know if it has to always deliver on a strange.
It's the same thing with Enterprise. Show me Enterprise.
There's at least an episode where there's no Enterprise, right?
That's right, and that sucks.
Yeah. There you go. So it's like Star Trek: The Next Generation without the Next Generation.
That's right.
Yeah. There is an episode of Deep Space Nine that doesn't feature Deep Space Nine at all. Which we're be covering later this season. It's called Children of Time. The station's not even in the episode at all. It's one of the.
I don't remember it being a good episode either.
Oh, I really like that episode, but it's not because there's no station in it. It's just because they don't really need it for that story. Anyway, so that's all of our Star Trek podcasts ongoing right now. Plus, check out Star Trek Radio Theater very soon. Our most recent one will be posted, the edited version. I've been working. I've been chipping away at this thing.
Is there another one coming up soon?
Well, I'm not scheduling a new one until I finish the last one. This is my new thing. So
you're estimating 2023 then?
Exactly. And
okay.
I got like the base edit done. Now I just got to remaster the final.
It's okay.
mix.
Kevin's tired. He doesn't want to go anyway.
It's been busy lately for everybody. So, but we'll be getting back to it soon. And then also check out our other channel, Super Meta Roads Podcasting, including our coverage of Survivor 42 that just wrapped up. You should check that out. Big Brother Canada 10. Gilligan is coming after a lot of other things. There's a lot of things ahead of it, but one day, I know you're I know he'll never let it go. But we got Big Brother USA season 4 is coming up later this month. I know. Yeah. It's all about where the Gilligan's at with Worf. And so we'll be doing a cast preview for that. Talk about Big Brother USA.
So I'm confused. When is Gilligan's Isle coming?
It's not going anywhere, Gilligan's Island. Like it's
I'm just saying it. Say it.
Yeah, you have something to say to me, then say it. I know. I just
good enough. Damn it, not good enough.
If you have something to say to me, say it.
Yeah, say it. And then also Trivial Debates. We didn't do one for May, but we'll be doing one for June for sure. So I'll get that. We'll get that going soon. Our other channel, Trivial Debates, plus our friends' podcasts like the Hellbound podcast with Alex and Michael.
I'm
Wednesday.
done plugging them. I'm done plugging them. What have they done for us lately?
I don't know. And then we had.
I'm just causing shit.
We got Eamon Mater's podcast. Let's talk about fighting.
Same thing with Eamon Mater.
Yeah, I don't know. He does things. And then
last time he was on this channel.
It's been a while. And then Davin Skellhorn, he's got Locutors of Trek, his Star
whatever,
Trek,
Davin as well.
his trivia podcast. He's also got his X-Men, the animated series, X-Rated, what he does with Andre every Tuesday, which will be tomorrow night. They go through all those episodes as well.
He's got some crazy guests on that series too.
Yeah, he's had some very, very cool guests on that show. So anyway, those are all our friends of our podcast. And thank you for being with us tonight here for Star Trek Enterprise Rewatch.
I'm waiting for Kevin's podcast to launch. It'll just be like 30 minutes of people bitching about everything.
It'll come out when the Gilligan's Island podcast comes out.
Excellent. All right, gentlemen. I think that's it.
I think
it wasn't bad. It definitely wasn't like last week's. That's all we can say.
All right.
So
and
I think it's time to. Are you going to play us out, Dave?
I'll play us out. It's a short one, but a good one.
I need to talk to a person.